We are here to fight against Bolt Shoes for their issue of using sweatshops to create their shoes. And snooping around, we've decided, we've seen some facts showing that in Thailand and Malaysia, both factories have terrible working conditions. They use children tied up to the sewing machines. Their wages are awful, and it's a fact that we've seen throughout the years that this is unacceptable, and we're on the defense of it as a commercial. They're trying to use it as a commercial side, so they're in the wrong. Even though they fired some people, this is not correct.
Right, so our client has uncovered through journalism that Bolt Shoes is running sweatshops in both Malaysia and Thailand with children. They're chained to their stations, they make very low money, they're treated very poorly, and conditions are just really terrible. And since then, they have fired a manager or two and come out and said, okay, well, we have great working conditions, it's better, we fixed it. And this has proven not to be true, as there's been a recirculation of images and things like that. So they mass-produced these statements and full-page advertisements in newspapers, which from a newspaper standpoint is a lot. They're really invested and widespread in these statements that everything's better now, when that's been uncovered to be untrue. Now they claim that they made these statements after, as a result of the circulation of the first round of pictures, their sales dropped by 30%. So then they came back and said, oh, it's better. And that isn't the truth. And they're trying to claim that this is political speech and it is clearly commercial. And it's been precedented by some other cases. But first, we want to show you kind of a preview of what exactly is going on.
And you can turn on the overhead. And the audio.
It'll work?
It'll take a moment.
Is it on here?
Yeah, it looks like. Well, it'll take a moment.
Blinking. Yeah, it's going.
Kind of, yeah.
It's on? Okay. Okay, perfect.
Can you see it? Or maybe that lights? Yeah, that helps. Okay.
So this is some video of Bolt Shoes, and how they've still been working wrongly.
And it doesn't have any audio, just so you know.
20 cents an hour, huh?
Objection.
That's Nike. Wrong shoe. They're a wholesaler.
Yep.
They sell multiple brands.
Oh, chained to the feet. We're powerless, they say. She works 84 hours per week. Our only choice is to stay and suffer, or if we speak out, be fired. An average of 15 women are hit on the head by supervisors every hour.
Objection. That's not true. Not every hour.
No. I mean, you're hearing it. We have it on tape. Not every hour. Thanks, Sheldon.
So with that, we'd like to go back to our previous cases that have kind of premised this concept. And while Central Hudson Gas and Electric versus the Public Service Commission kind of set a precedent by determining a test for commercial versus political speech, we've kind of chosen to use the California Supreme Court's decision in the Mark Caskey versus Nike case, where they kind of took a turn away from Central Hudson and came up with their own test for commercialization and speech. And in that, they referenced Gertz versus Robert Welch, saying that there's no constitutional value in false statements of fact. Neither the intentional lie nor the careless error materially advances society's interest in uninhibited, robust, wide-open debate on public issues. And they also said that while some false and misleading statements are entitled to First Amendment protection, that isn't universal. So with that, the Supreme Court kind of determined their own reasoning, and they had 3 reasons for distinguishing commercial from non-commercial speech, and withholding constitutional protection from that, because if it's commercial, it's not protected. And those were as follows. The first is, the truth of commercial speech may be more easily verifiable by its disseminator, in that ordinarily the advertiser seeks to disseminate information about a specific product or service that he himself provides and presumably knows more about than anyone else. Obviously, Bolt Shoes knows what goes on in their Bolt factories better than anyone on the outside, than anyone else would. And as we just saw, Sheldon clearly knows about the claims we're making.
Clearly, he's stating that they're getting hit on the head, which by any regulations in America or anywhere, that's not allowed. So clearly he stated that they're not getting hit on the head numerous times, maybe just a few times. So on that note, not only are they being punished, so strictly on that fact, they are getting hit on the head. He clearly notices that, oh, we figured out there's still more tape, that it's still falsely being accused that, hey, we fixed things, but no, just because they've fired some managers, it's still incorrect, that they're still working numerous hours, they're still making no money.
Right. So with that, the second determination in their system is that commercial speech is harder than non-commercial speech in the sense that commercial speakers, because they act from a profit motive, are less likely to experience a chilling effect from speech regulation. With that, the third is also that government authority to regulate commercial speech transactions to prevent commercial harms justifies a power to regulate speech that is linked inextricably through those transactions. Ultimately, the court found that commercial speech consists at a core of speech proposing a commercial transaction, meaning proposing a sale, monetary gain, things like that. A shoe company certainly falls under that category.
Even in the Kasky case against Nike, that they determined the Nike statements were commercial. So even with them, they weren't strictly tied up with chains, even though we looked up, they weren't all tied up with chains, that even if they found those commercial with how many hours they were working, then we decided that the Bolt case as well should be commercial, because they both equal and they both kind of have the same case, whereas in both of them are in using people for long hours, they're in a different country, and they're selling their shoes worldwide.
Right. And in that decision, they referenced Justice Stevens' concurring opinion in Rubin versus Coors Brewing that says, any description of commercial speech that is intended to identify the category of speech entitled to less First Amendment protection should relate to the reasons for permitting broader regulation, namely commercial speech's potential to mislead. The California Supreme Court applied this new limited purpose test to the facts of the Bolt case and determined that Bolt's statements were commercial. Or Kasky, sorry. And their premise for that is that Nike is a corporation that is engaged in commerce. Second, in terms of audience, Nike's statements were intended to reach and influence actual or potential purchasers of Nike products. And third, the statements concerning labor practices were working conditions, were representations of a fact of commercial nature. And if you reread each of those and replace Nike with Bolt, they remain true. That Bolt is a corporation engaged in commerce, that in terms of their audience, Bolt statements were and are intended to reach and influence potential purchasers of their product, and that their labor practices are less than satisfactory. And so with that, our prayer for damages is simply that we request the closure of both of these facilities in question.
Questions?
So are you guys suing for false advertisement, or?
Right, yes. The charge is for false advertisement, in that when they came out and said our conditions are better, we've changed things, there was the recirculation of images and videos and all the same things that brought about the case initially, that clearly was still going on.
Still going on, yes.
Roy, why are you promoting Nike by wearing their clothing?
I'm wearing Nike on the sense of, today I wanted to show that, hey, Nike's changed. I looked up not too long ago that they've closed all their sweatshops, so in the sense of now most of their buildings are in America and they're working on this. And this was Nike ID, which came out of Seattle, Washington, so I'm wearing this to prove that, hey, they're changing. So, and Bolt hasn't, so I'm not wearing any Bolt stuff because they haven't changed.
you think that their wages in like Malaysia and stuff, is that like the norm for them, or are you just comparing them to like the United States wages?
No, the Malaysian norm, which was it's $1.75, which doesn't sound a lot to us, but compared to the cents that they were making, the $1.75 is what they can have to buy a bunch of fruit or keep like a roof over their head. While the 75, there's a quote they have is that the cents that they were making could barely feed their whole family.
Right.
So $1.75 over 44 cents to 75 cents is a huge difference.
Right, and in addition to that, I don't think that being chained to your workstation is typical of any work situation.
If I want to go to the bathroom and they won't let me, they just hit me on the head and say, "Make another pair of shoes." That's not idealist. That's not how we work. That's not how you're laughing. You find that funny?
No.
So, if this is happening in other countries, why are we doing this through U.S. courts?
Because it's not as regulated over there. I don't think they realize the issue at hand, and because Bolt is a United States-based company that is outsourcing their work to places where they expect that they can get away with this sort of thing, but we won't allow that to happen.
Right, you just said it's not as regulated over there, so what do you say is satisfactory conditions over there? Like, what's good working conditions?
Well, like Roy said, definitely higher wages, and I mean, I guess relatively normal work environment where you go to work and you work, you're not forced, you're not beaten.
You can ask your manager, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom?" In a sense of, "Hey, I'm going to the bathroom, but I don't have a chain on my leg. I can walk up and go to the bathroom." It's a whole process. There's a bunch of people there. There's hundreds of thousands of people working there. One person stopping making a shoe is not going to kill them. So in a sense that if they don't have a chain on their leg, if they have that freedom, maybe a good, when they're on break for 15, 20 minutes, that they have a good workroom, a little place to relax, a little water cooler, instead of.
Who says that's not satisfactory to the Malaysian working way they work out over there?
What do you mean they're satisfactory?
Their work ethics. They may be different than us in the U.S. It might be perfect normal over there for people to be chained.
I think normal and acceptable are two different things.
Yeah, and with that quote they have is that if we speak out, we get fired. So that quote right there explains that they're uncomfortable with the situations that they're in, that if we do speak out, we're going to get fired. And
that it's forced labor, and forced is never satisfactory. And just to clarify a little bit on my having said it's unregulated, I was referring more in terms of, this investigation began in 2007 of the journalist, our client, finding this stuff. So obviously, Bolt Shoes kind of set themselves up in a relatively remote area where they wouldn't think that they would be caught, and that's more of what I meant by that.
And whenever you were discussing how you, in the beginning, discovered this information through journalism, what type of journalism did you find this out from?
Photojournalism, there was some broadcast and print as well.
Was there consent from the factories?
In a sense, there was it being on YouTube. We were just like, okay, it's been put on YouTube, so we're gonna be allowed to use it.
Would you say that Bolt has perhaps maybe given some of the Malaysians an opportunity for work because they don't necessarily have to work there if they don't want to?
I guess they've opened jobs, but
again, I think it relates back to they chose this area strategically where people are already impoverished and need work, so they know that these people will subject themselves to working for low wages, because initially they may know, yeah, this job has low wages, but I doubt that they know up front they're going to chain me to my workstation, they're going to beat me, so I think it's a lot of going in blind, and then once you're there you don't have an option because you need that money to support yourself, to support your family, and it's a poor country. So by in the sense of, hey, we have a job for you, that it's a little gleam of light, but doesn't mean it's the best thing. That's like me saying, oh, hey, I'm opening a homeless shelter, but I'm gonna give it. It's not gonna be free like the other ones. It's 10 cents to get in. So then homeless people are gonna start trying to steal 10 cents or trying to find 10 cents. So even though it's a homeless shelter where, hey, we're helping people out, we're gonna be charging people to get in.